Mr. Happy Living here, and I'm happy to be broadcasting from WITV 7 in the beautiful Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina. I love entrepreneurs and authors and inspirational speakers and kindness rock stars and people from every walk of life that have discovered their reason for being on this planet. And that's why I love Orly Wahba. She's all of those things I mentioned, and the founder of Life Vest Inside too. It's a nonprofit organization dedicated to inspiring, empowering, and educating people of all backgrounds to lead a life of kindness. I love that mission. It's nearly the same as ours at WITV 7 to educate, empower, and encourage people in need. Orly, welcome to the Something Significant show.
Matt, you are a rock star, and I am honored and touched to be here. You definitely, you actually embody your title, Mr. Happy Living, because whenever I watch you, I just want to smile. I feel very good inside, and I'm sure that's what everybody else feels. So thank you for having me on.
That's great. Thank you. So just tell us what you're doing these days to leave your mark of significance on the world.
Great question. So basically, I run Life Vest Inside. I've been doing so since 2011. I used to be a middle school educator, left my job teaching after teaching for 7 incredible years, started this nonprofit, and it's been an incredible journey ever since day one. Started with a short film that went viral, and I'm continuing to do that each day. Our mission, as you mentioned, is to inspire, empower, and educate people to lead a life of kindness. But the way that we do it is through inspirational media like film, through education, developing and implementing curriculum, through leadership training programs, through international events, which you are a part of, just one that we just had, our Global Dance for Kindness event. And of course, also through technology. We have this amazing platform. It's one of my favorite things that we actually do, called Project Hope Exchange, that allows people that are going through adversity to share inspiring messages of hope based on the adversity that they're facing to another person that's going through the same exact experience. And it's all completely anonymous. So it's been a really fun journey. And besides that, I have a separate initiative I recently started about a year ago called Abraham's Legacy, which I created in memory of my grandfather, Abraham, who passed away 6 years ago. And it's a social network for prayer, really, that connects people from around the world and uplifts them to show the power of prayer. And when we come together to help one another through difficult times and uplift each other, through words of positivity and encouragement.
Oh, it's beautiful. And you sound like a busy lady. Let's journey back in time a little bit. I want to know about the 2 years you spent in trapeze school in New York City.
What I got to tell you, you are the first person to ever ask me that question. I love it. I loved trapezing. Oh my goodness. It started off, it was just going to be, I saw it. I was driving down on the West Side Highway in New York City, and I'm looking to my left and I see the Hudson River, and it's beautiful. And I see these people flying in the air. I said, I got to do that. Yeah. And I tried it out once. I fell absolutely in love with just the energy of it, that ability to just be completely free. And I started going to the school there. I was actually training to be a trainer there. And it's such a fun experience. I actually want to bring one. It's funny you mentioned it. I was talking to a friend of mine. I said, I got to bring trapeze here to Jerusalem. I got to start flying around on the streets of Jerusalem.
That's awesome. I always wanted to do that when I was a kid, and I got into athletics. And I always said if I didn't pursue sports, I would have gone into the military. But if I hadn't gone to the military, I might have gone into the circus. I always thought trapeze looked so fun. So good.
Oh, it's amazing. So I highly recommend it.
Okay. So let's look forward. How do you hope to be impacting the world, let's say 10 years from now?
It's a really good question. The truth of the matter is, for me, and use the word empower. When you empower people, and this is really the goal, the essence of Life Vest Inside and my own personal mission, when you empower people to recognize their value and their potential to effectuate change, think about all of the additional innovation that's created, the progress that's created, because it's my belief that we're all interconnected, and each and every one of us serve a purpose in this world. There's no superfluous people. It's not like, oops, there's an extra person here. There's no such thing. If you're here, it's on purpose, and there's something that you're meant to bring into the world that nobody else can bring. My greatest mission, my greatest personal mission is to be able to empower people to really see that, to wake up in the morning on purpose and to know that irregardless of the mistakes that they've made yesterday and the day before, there is something positive that they can contribute. And that's really the essence of what Life Essence Side is about, creating these ambassadors within different countries, providing them with the skills, the tools, the resources, the empowerment, and the encouragement to make shifts and changes within their own community. Because it is my belief that if we simply take care of our community, the world in itself will take care of itself. Yeah. And so that is our goal, to be able to establish these hubs within different locations and countries around the world that we provide initial resources to, but that they run there autonomously and help to empower their own community. I mean, personally in my own life, I know that there is a lot more out there for me to be doing. I don't even know where the next piece of my puzzle is going to lead me, but I'm feeling that I'm just getting started, and that really does excite me. So I'm not 100% sure. At one point within the past few years, I started thinking, maybe really where you could create positive changes within the political arena. And then people telling me, no, Orly, don't go down that route. So who knows where I'm going to go? But all I know is that my life mission is to empower people. I'm a lover of people. I always say I fall in love with people more and more each day. And if we can all just recognize that within ourselves, we can take care of this world. And each person can have exactly what they need to live a purposeful and meaningful life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Don't go into politics unless they drag you in, which could happen. So, Orly, my unique definition of significance contains 4 elements. I think you'll like them. Doing things you love, in places you love, with people you love, and creating something of value to others. So it's doing and it's giving. But to be a giver, you need excess capacity in your life. So what are your personal practices? What do you do physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, emotionally? What do you do to increase your capacity so you can take good care of yourself and still have more to give to others?
So you're bringing up a great point, because the concept of life vest inside is that, right, we first have to put on our life vest, because if we drown, we're not going to be able to help anybody else. And it's a very, very hard message to remember, especially for those that are givers in the world, as you know, right? Because as givers, for number one, it's really addictive. We love to give, and oftentimes we forget about ourselves. And when we do that, it can become really dangerous. So for me, there are several things that I do to keep myself mindful of that. Am I always successful? No, but there are certain things that I put in my life that will always remind me of it. Number one, I would say the top thing is something that I was just happened to be lucky enough to be born into, leading my life that way. So I happen to be Jewish, which means every single Friday night, sundown, to Saturday, an hour after sundown, my whole world stops. Mm-hmm. Now, that means phone off, computer off, no technology, no car. You're not using electricity, you're not writing, you're not working, you're not even talking about working. It's a time to be with you, with your family, with friends, with loved ones, and to connect and to remember why you're here. Now, the fact that comes, it's not like New Year's that comes once a year where you get to reevaluate and, you make your New Year's resolutions. What I love about it, it's in a sense every week I get this remote control in my hand and I get to click pause. Yeah. And I get to observe the picture of the past week. Now, it's really much easier to see where you sometimes can veer off and where you make mistakes when you're looking at each week as its own individual entity, as opposed to a year passing and then saying, oh boy, what happened to those resolutions I made? All the way I'm back in January 1, what happened? So the truth is that honestly feeds me. Everybody knows, Orly's not going to be accessible during this time. And it gives me a time to reconnect to myself, reconnect to my purpose, and reevaluate where I want to go. And I always say that if I didn't have that, if I didn't have those forced moments, and they're no longer forced, they're really, I love them. They're like my favorite thing. I think it'd be very easy for me to sort of to get lost in the hectic, constant busyness of it all. And we can each create our own versions of that. It's not always easy to do, to have that no tech, and you're just simply connecting, where it's just, you're with people and you're connecting with those people, you're with yourself. So that's one thing I put in place for me that I would say is probably really steered me in a good direction. I'm not going to say that I meditate every day, but I do pray in the mornings. And to me, that's sort of like a meditation. And in the mornings, the first thing I say every morning when I wake up and I take this deep breath in is, there's a one-liner prayer, and it's basically, it's saying, they say that when a person is sleeping, it's like they're a 60th dead. And so when you wake up, it's like your soul has been given back to you. And I say this line that says, thank you for giving me back my soul, and thank you for having faith in me. It's a huge thing because, and again, not everybody, again, this is for me, everybody has their own personal thing, whether it's the universe, God, whatever it is that you believe in or you don't believe in, it doesn't matter. But to know that morning happened on purpose, that, I always say to myself, well, if God's betting on me, then I better bet on myself. And so to me, that's a really great thing. And then I start my morning with short form, just gratitudes for really simple things like, thank you for allowing me to sit up straight. Thank you for the clothes on my body. Thank you for allowing me to walk. These small lines of gratitude, that starts off my day. And that helps to remind me, because sometimes we can go to sleep with having a really negative day, or things didn't go well, or feeling exhausted. And the minute that we start sharing the reasons that we're grateful, the things that we're grateful for, I always say, when you share gratitude, there are more reasons that are going to come into your life to be grateful. So sort of think about it as, imagine somebody giving you a gift, giving you a present for your birthday, and they work so hard on it. They give it to you, and you look at it, and you're like, thanks. And you put it aside and you continue on. I mean, the likelihood is they're not going to give you another great gift the following year. So we say life is a gift, and if we recognize and we appreciate it, then more reasons to be grateful are going to end up flowing into our world. So I would say these are some of the things. One of the other things is, I know this sounds funny, but it's talking to my mom once a day. Yeah. I remember my mom always said, Orly, you could go out and change the world, but make sure you call your mother first. So I feel like, it does, it sort of, keeps me in check. And it's a really big thing.
That's awesome. Good stuff so far. So we're going to take a commercial break. I want to tell everyone about 3 things. A super amazing health device called Zona Plus, how they can get a $50 discount at Happy Living. And this will surprise you, how their purchase will support a great big donation to WITV7 and Life Vest Inside. Mr. Happy Living here. I love good things made by good people. That's why I love Zona Plus, the world's first software-controlled handheld device that improves cardiovascular health using isometric exercise. You're going to love yours too. I use mine almost every day to keep my blood pressure right where it should be. It also helps maintain healthy blood and oxygen flow and bone density. And it increases the production of nitric oxide, which also increases blood flow and lowers blood pressure. All good stuff. But what really surprised me is this little device has been adding muscle to my biceps too. I walk around all day long feeling pumped. Check them out at happyliving.com and select Partners in Happy for $50 off. Plus, for every order placed in the month of January, I'll donate $50 to WITV7 and another $50 to Life Vest Inside. Okay, we're back, and this is the Something Significant show, and I'm Matt Gersper. Hey friends, do yourself a great big health favor and buy a Zona Plus right after the show. It'll take just a minute and improve your health for a lifetime. I love mine and use it every day. I know you'll love yours too. I also love talking with my kindness rock star guest, Orly Wahba. Over the past 10 years, her company Life Vest Inside has produced and distributed kindness films that have touched the hearts of millions. And she's launched a worldwide annual event in over 50 countries, 120 cities, over 70,000 participants. It's called Dance for Kindness. She mentioned it earlier. And I was proud to participate in it just a few months ago. Folks, you're going to have to join us in 2021. It's going to be a blast. So Orly, in my second book, Turning Inspiration into Action, I explore the idea that big transformations and discovery of purpose often come from devastation. A terrible illness, a sudden death, some big crisis shakes your life. But I've used a happier way and created transformations in my life with inspiration. So take us back to 2011 and that moment that you took a big leap of faith and quit your teaching job of, I think, 7 years, quit your teaching career because you discovered your purpose was to create something called Life Vest Inside. What caused your decision? Was it devastation? Was it inspiration? What was it?
It's a good question. And I think it's a bit of both. I think that when we come across these hardships in our life, we have a choice. We can choose to allow it to break us, or we could choose it to allow, to us to grow and to, in a sense, to rise above and get to specific heights that we wouldn't have been able to get to had we not been pushed to those specific limits. For me, kindness has always very much been a part of my backstory, wanting to make a big change. It was a dream I had ever since I was a little 4-year-old kid who dreamed of changing the world, and everybody thought I was nuts. But, even going into teaching came from moments of devastation, and going into Life Vest Inside sort of stemmed from that same moment. Back when I was 15 years old, which is a very difficult time in life, you're trying to figure out who you are amidst everybody telling you who you should be. We had a fire in my house, and overnight, my family lost absolutely everything. And we were moving from place to place for about 6 years until we all lived under the same roof. It was a very, very difficult, that first year was the most difficult. It was one of those years where it's not hard for us to imagine after 2020, but one of those years where everything that you thought could, go wrong had already went wrong. You think it can't get worse. And then it got worse. And then, another thing came. My dad had lost his business. We were in a very, very difficult position, and I didn't want to be an extra burden on my family. So I kept my emotions hidden from them and my friends. And I basically fell into a very dark depression, suicidal dark. And I was home from school for several months. To be honest, I didn't want to continue, but it wasn't just the fire. It was, I was the kind of kid, I was a very shy kid, but if you were absent from school, whether I knew you didn't know you, I was the kid that was, copying notes for you, bring it to you the next day. And there I was home from school for several months, and not one person called. Not one person came to see if I was okay. And that made me feel like, well, if I wasn't here tomorrow, would it really make a difference to anybody? And it felt like the answer was no. And I wanted to give up on everything. I was angry at everyone, the world and myself, just angry. I was forced to go back to school. And then one not so special day, as I was getting ready to go to school, and I was in the bathroom and I was looking at myself in the mirror. I'll never forget this. I was really looking at myself in the mirror, and the scariest thing happened. I didn't see me. I didn't see that 4-year-old kid, that 4-year-old Orly that dreamed of changing the world looking back at me. And that scared me. I said, I don't know how I'm going to pick myself back up, but this can't be my end. And it was in that moment that I made a promise to myself, a promise that guided me to my years teaching, and a promise that gave me the courage to leave my years teaching and to pursue Life Vest Inside, and a promise that's going to take me to whatever is next. And it was a promise to be there for people the way I wish somebody would have been there for me, and to see people the way that I wish somebody would have seen me. My choice for coming to teaching was to be able to help my students see the beauty in themselves so they could see it in others. Because what I came to understand through those hardships is unless I come to truly love me and respect me for who I am, nobody's going to be able to see that within me.
Yeah.
And so leaving my job teaching to start Life Vest Inside was, in a sense, that next piece of the puzzle. It was not easy to do. And it was supposed to be just a year journey, but it ended up being a life choice that I'm thrilled about each and every day.
That's awesome. How old were you when you were in the mirror? What year was that?
When I left my job teaching?
No, when you had that epiphany that you have to take your life back, and you're here to do for others. But that
well, this was definitely when I was 15 years old.
15.
I think the big shift happened for me when I was in my senior year. So I was 17. I was a very quiet, shy kid, and in my senior year of high school, we were on a seminar, okay? And we were in circles and we were talking, and the teacher, the facilitator, was talking about obstacles. And I did something I never did before. I raised my hand and I had something to contribute to the conversation. The crazy thing is, kids that I used to be so super intimidated from were listening to me and then coming to me afterwards and asking me for advice. And what I found is that the more I gave, the more I healed. And the more I gave, the more I healed. And I became obsessed and in love with this concept and this idea of giving. Now, I'd always been a giver. I'd always loved giving. But over those couple of years of high school, sort of walking alone, it gave me the chance to fall in love with me for me. I got to come to understand my value. And suddenly the giving shifted. It was no longer coming from a place of weakness. It was no longer coming from a place of sacrifice. It was now coming from a place of abundance. It was coming from a place of strength.
Yeah, you had excess.
Excess, exactly.
Yourself and you had excess. That's awesome.
And once you have that, you just can continue to give, because it's like the candle. It can light so many others, yet it still retains its flame. But you need to see that within you.
Like a bellows. Bellows is always full.
Exactly.
It's spiritual.
Exactly.
When you touch your spirit, well, that's where we're going right now. We've talked about capacity, and what we just got done talking about is purpose. You discovered you and your purpose. And when you combine those two, the sky's the limit. Or I like to say capacity plus purpose equals happy. I call it, you'd like this as a teacher, the happy formula. But the real magic of life comes from the fourth element of success. So let's talk about doing work that creates value for others and how that's brought joy and magic into your life. In other words, how does it feel when you stand up for a schoolyard bully that I read about, and he grows up to help troubled teens, or when your movie inspires someone to make an ordinary act of kindness that boomerangs in to create extraordinary effects in the world? What kind of joy do you get from creating value for others?
It's the greatest thing in the world, and it's something that's very hard to measure. But, our greatest, we look for validation sometimes from all these external things, where validation really only exists within us. And when you're engaging in an act of kindness or an act of giving, however big or however small, the reason that we feel so good, and there is scientific evidence behind why we feel this way, as I'm sure you know, right? The endorphins that we release, the oxytocin, why do we feel so good? It's because in that moment of giving, we catch a glimpse of our potential. We catch a glimpse of our purpose, and we recognize we didn't need to be anybody else except ourselves. We didn't need to be the wealthiest guy or the smartest guy or the prettiest guy or the fastest, or we just needed to be us.
Yep.
And we look in this world, we're looking at all these numbers, all these external factors to give us our value. How many followers, how many views, how many this, how much numbers, how much money, how much cars. What does it mean? Because a person can have all of that external success, yet still feel hollow, still feel empty, still feel unhappiness. Happiness can only be found within you. You cannot seek it out there. You can only seek it within you. And that's why kindness, engaging in giving, gives us that true sense of happiness, because it's coming from within ourselves. And we're catching a glimpse of ourselves. That's what makes us feel amazing.
Yep. And the more you catch that glimpse and walk towards it, the more you live in that more frequently throughout the day. And when you really, I think when people talk about enlightenment and all that, they're always there. They're always that glimpse. They're living the whole thing all the time. And so when you feel it, walk towards it, folks. That's 100%. Great stuff. So let's take a few minutes. I like to play quote games. I love quotes. So I'll read just a couple of my favorite ones and see what it means to you. Just take 30 seconds or so, and we'll go through a couple. This is from Dr. Wayne Dyer. Even if no one sees or acknowledges it, a silent blessing or a thought of love towards others contains a vibration that will be felt through the cosmos.
This couldn't be more true, because again, it's not something that we can necessarily see, but the things that people remember is what we feel. When you do one thing, and that's really what the Kindness Boomerang film is all about. It's exactly that.
Yeah.
When you do one action, even if it's so simple, if it's so small, you have no idea how far reaching that one act can be. Because you see, when you feel good and you have this positive energy inside of you and you bump into somebody and you give them a compliment, let's say, what you did is you just supercharged that person.
Mm-hmm.
You just put them on supercharge. Now you have another supercharged person walking about. The likelihood is that the next interaction they have is going to be positive, and they're going to supercharge another. But here's the really exciting part. You can have one person supercharging another, and then this third bystander sees it happening, and it supercharges him too.
Yeah.
To me, that's incredible. That is the power of our actions. It is the power, really, if we think about it, of our choices. Because everything is a choice. We have a choice of how we want to engage in this world. And that those choices are there every single day. And the more that we recognize that we matter, the more our choices matter. The more we understand our choices matter, the more likely we are to make better choices.
That's great. Folks, we're going to put Orly's film in the show notes. You're going to love it. It's an amazing short film, very uplifting and dead on to what we're talking about right here. Let me give you one from my past that a lot of people have a hard time. Well, I shouldn't say that. They think of it differently than I do. So I'll try it out on you. Your day belongs to another's dream.
I love that. To me, I'll tell you what that means to me. It means it's what I was saying earlier, that we're really all interconnected. Your day belongs to another person's dream, meaning you don't know how many people's lives you'll touch. You know, in this world, in today's world of COVID, it's very easy for us to see how one person can truly make a difference. How, you know, the virus is contagious, but so is kindness. Yeah. And so when you're in the world, when you enter into a room, you create an impact. And you never know how the simple action of smiling at somebody, or at looking at someone in the eyes when you're talking to them, or at helping somebody up, or whatever it may be, how it may affect them. Because your action can be the small thing that they need to lift them up. That small life vest. That even though they're in a sea of troubles, that they're in a sea of waters and it's raging, that little life vest, that little lifeline of kindness is the little bit that they need to keep them afloat, to give them the hope to know it's going to be okay. And just that can lead to a whole nother dream of where they want to go with their life and empower them to pursue really great things. So the actions that you take, the decisions that you make, the choices that you make, they don't only dictate the life that you lead, they dictate the lives of those who choose to follow you.
100%. Last one from Goth. He says, whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.
Well, to me, the idea is we all have something that we can achieve, but oftentimes the gap between where we are and what we want, where we want to be, or the goal that we have is so big that we allow it to crush us. And that's why I think for many people, New Year's resolutions become just these New Year's resolutions that don't actually come into fruition. Because in order to take inspiration and turn it into action, we need to start. If you don't start, that gap is just going to crush you. And you need to make sure that even though you dream, I always say dream big, but think small. Have the big resolution of what you want to achieve, but think small. What is the smallest thing that you can do today to help you get towards that goal? Yeah. Because if we just have these big goals and we expect them to happen just like that, it's going to stop us in our tracks. We're not going to succeed right away, and we're going to stop. So don't forget to create the small goals. It's the hardest thing to do when you have a dream or a goal in your life is just to begin. It's not easy. And yes, you may fail, and you may fail time and time again, but you have to just keep looking at the small step, and eventually you'll get to the longer journey.
Lao Tzu wrote about 2,500 years ago, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I just read that actually this morning, sitting right over there in my morning reading chair. So great stuff, Orly. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time. But our time's coming to an end. So will you kindly take a minute or two and share any parting remarks or comments that you'd like to leave with our audience?
First of all, I want to thank you for having me on. And I would say if there's anything that you're going to remember from the talk that we had just now, to all those out there, is to believe in yourself, to recognize that you are here on purpose. There is something that you are meant to do that nobody else can do. And I know that it's hard. I know that we've gone through some hardships as humanity over this year. We've gone through moments where we've doubted where we're going next or what's going to be in our life. I know that there are hardships. I'm not discounting that. But just remember that there is something that you are meant to do. Keep your eye on that goal. You need to believe in you. I know it's not easy when you get discouragement, and people are going to sometimes discourage you from achieving your dreams and your goals. Remember that anybody that discourages you, it's not because they don't believe in you. It's because they don't believe enough in themselves. And if they don't think that they can achieve, how can they possibly believe that you can achieve?
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you, Orly. And now, folks.
Thank you so much.
And now, folks, it's your turn. If you can hear my voice and you were inspired by today's show with Orly Wahba, please donate what you can to WITV7. They're a 501c3 charity on a mission to educate, empower, and encourage. They do good works with your kindness. Orly, you are a one-of-a-kind kindness rock star. And I love everything you're doing at Life Vest Inside and Dance for Kindness and the Kindness Curriculum and Project Hope Exchange. And I really admire you for having the courage to dedicate your livelihood and your life to inspiring, empowering, and educating people of all backgrounds to lead a life of kindness. Thank you for doing important work to lift people all around the world to a higher level of consciousness. It's awesome.
Thank you so much. It means more than you possibly can know. It really does.
And thank you, WITV7, for hosting and promoting our show so we can keep reaching ordinary people ready to create extraordinary lives. Special thank you to our sponsors for the month of January, Zona Plus and Happy Living. Remember, I'll donate $50 to WITV7 and another $50 to Life Vest Inside for every order placed during the entire month. So tell your friends to buy a Zona Plus too. It's good for their health, and it's a charitable thing to do. And most especially, thank you, viewers and listeners. You'll find links to websites and social media and all things Orly Wahba. Find her, friend her, buy her book, join her books, buy her books, join her kindness revolution and its mission to build a kinder world. From me to you, dear friends, I love you and I want you to be happy. We do what we do on the Something Significant show to inspire you to live your life to its fullest, to believe as I do that a better self is always possible today and every day for the rest of our lives. Be bold. If you're dreaming about it, then get on with it, for it's there on your special path, the one to your dream, your unique and distinctive journey. That's where you'll discover the way to make your mark of significance on the world. Till next time, I'm Matt Gersper. You are awesome, and this is the Something Significant Show.